Take the fall, act hurt, get indignant.
This time on Wrestling with the Business.
Welcome back to this special holiday edition of Wrestling with the Business. I am Matt Lambert. With me as always is Jeremy Bodette. And we got the third man here from the Scarifyer podcast, The Ace, joining us for this special episode.
Listen, it's the holiday season. We wanted to try something special, something different. And we've been talking about doing crossovers a lot with our friends over at Scarifyer. Ace found some time in his schedule, and a lot went on in 2019. There's a lot of crossover topics between the horror genre and professional wrestling, and we thought this would be a great opportunity to, first of all, get his face for radio in front of you guys, give you guys some familiarity with him, and also just kind of talk about what's been going on. And I want to talk a little bit about what's going on. Why don't you talk a little bit about, for the fans that are watching right now that don't know anything about Scarifyer, why don't you just talk a little bit about what Scarifyer is, what you and the Gov do, and why you do it?
All right. Well, Scarifyer is a podcast run by myself, the Ace, my partner in crime, the Gov. We are a podcast of all things horror-related pop culture. Halloween, I mean, we cover it all. You know, we love the October season. We get into the Halloween Horror Nights with Universal and all the haunts all around the areas in the upstate New York area. Mm-hmm. We talk about what's relevant in the horror community, what's coming up, what's pissed us off, what makes us happy, what's pissed everybody else off, but maybe made us happy. Mm-hmm. Most importantly, like you guys here at Wrestling with the Business, and which is why I'm happy to be on this show, is we are a podcast and an entity for the fans, by the fans, which is exactly what this is. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes it fun. It's we encourage open communication with all of our followers. We'll give them shouts out on the shows. You know, give us suggestions. If there's a terrible horror movie that you like that you've never heard anybody ever talk about, we will sit through it and we'll probably destroy it, but we will give it an honest review. We're cynical, we're critical, we're funny, we have a good time, and that's what it's all about.
You know, we're at the tail end of 2019 right now, and I
think
a lot has been happening in 2019 across the horror genre and the wrestling genre. And one of the biggest things that's happened this year in wrestling has been the emergence of Bray Wyatt's Fiend as probably the most compelling gimmick to come along in God only knows how long.
Years.
And one thing that's very interesting and unique about it is the fact that it touches on a horror suspense aspect in professional wrestling that we really don't see a lot of anymore. Certainly not to that extreme.
He walks to the ring with a severed head lantern.
It's his own severed head, which is even cooler. What I want to get your feedback because I know you're familiar with the gimmick.
Sure.
What do you like it? Do you not like it? Does it pay good homage? What should he be doing? Sort of, what are your thoughts on the Bray Wyatt gimmick of 2019?
I like him. I like him a lot. I think it's something new. It's something fresh that the WWE has needed. I don't think you could have a better wrestler to pull this off. Arguably, Bray Wyatt, you know, is the best on the mic, you know, that we've seen in a very long time. And we all know that the WWE is heavily scripted, but I mean, this is a guy who can talk. Mm-hmm. And he can really bring that character to life. And yeah, I like it.
Especially those early promos right after,
sure.
A couple weeks after WrestleMania. It was very clear he did it all by himself. He didn't have the WWE writing stuff for him. It was, like you said, it was fresh, it was different, it was new. Definitely something exciting, and it's gone through.
What about the Firefly Funhouse aspect of it? Because we see a lot more of that than we see of the Fiend. Is it what is it that contrast? There's that contrast there in the character.
Yeah. I mean, if it's, in terms of wrestling, if it's over, it's over. You work it. Me personally, I think they should just go with the Fiend character and keep with the Fiend character.
So you don't like the Firefly Funhouse?
I mean, it's silly. It's fun. It's good for a laugh. And it does get a little creepy. I don't know. I'd rather than see them just build the Fiend character and make him mysterious. Make him,
Isn't that opposite of each other? Isn't that contradictory? Build him, but make him mysterious.
Keep him off camera for, have him be a surprise. I think Crow's Sting. All right, when Steve Borden turned from Surfer Sting to the Crow Sting, he wasn't on every Nitro. He didn't wrestle for an entire fucking year. He didn't even say a word. But he'd drop in from the ceiling.
Yep, you swoop in.
Take out a random guy, bounce out. We all knew it was leading to Sting Hogan. Mm-hmm. I think they should do something like that with Bray Wyatt. Keep him off camera. Let the crowd want him. Because by Starrcade 97 came around, all you wanted was Sting.
Yeah.
All you wanted was Sting and Hogan. It was the biggest match of the year, and you can get into discussions of how that failed. But I mean, that's for another topic. But
you could argue, though, that just playing devil's advocate, the Firefly Funhouse is the way to keep the Fiend off TV. So you're still getting the character over. Bray Wyatt and the Fiend are in every way different characters.
They
but
are.
He still builds towards the Fiend's matches.
I'd rather just see Bray Wyatt not on TV. I'd rather not see him on TV at all. I'd like to see him, be that surprise appearance.
I mean, it plays into the kayfabe of the situation, right? Because by showing Bray Wyatt in the Firefly Funhouse, you are kind of showing the shadow of the Fiend, right? I mean, it's a contrast, right? I mean, nobody sees Bray Wyatt and thinks anything but the Fiend anymore. Every time they see a Firefly Funhouse promo or tease or anything like that, they're always thinking about the Fiend. Are we going to see the Fiend? Is he going to come out? What are we going to do? So to your point, while you're right, it does keep the Fiend off the screen. I think it's too closely associated with the Bray Wyatt character for them to be considered separate.
Right.
And it doesn't do a particularly good job of keeping kayfabe.
Well, there is such a thing as overexposure, and with the WWE, I don't think it's just Bray Wyatt. I think it's all their top stars. I mean, listen, when you got your top guy on, he's main eventing every single Raw, every single SmackDown, then every single pay-per-view, every single special,
and you got a locker room full of guys that can't get any air.
Yeah.
They're stuck in the back. Like he said, the camera cuts across by where they're eating, and there's a line of professional wrestlers standing in front of the catering table.
Right.
And none of them make an appearance on the show. They might do a dark match.
Right.
Before or after.
Main event is still a thing.
But they don't.
And in doing that, that's how you get your guys, your top guys, more opponents. You give those guys, who aren't on TV every week exposure. You let the crowd get behind them, and then you build them up for the big guys.
Yeah, they don't. No, it's just squash matches now. Mm-hmm. It's all squad. Anytime you see someone and their name doesn't pop right in your head, you're like, it's gonna be a squash match.
And every pay-per-view's, the same, 5 or 6 guys
at the top
headlining it.
All the good matches are all on the pre-show. The 2 or 3 pre-show matches always end up being the best matches.
TLC, the first 3 matches, including the pre-show, they were the best of the night.
The best of the night.
Yeah. Why aren't they doing anything with Bobby Roode?
Oh. He's out with a drug infection right now.
I mean, not right now. But prior to all that.
Oh, yeah.
I love the gimmick.
I mean, what an incredible wrestler.
And he's solid. Yeah, he's a very good wrestler.
Cesaro. I've said for years that guy
Yeah.
deserves a top spot. The power.
Happy
And
birthday, Cesaro. It's his birthday.
Yeah. So yeah,
He's great. What did you think about his whole his thing with Sheamus, the bar, right? The bar.
I think that was if they weren't going to give him a singles push, that was a good place to put him. They were a good tag team.
At the time, I didn't like it though. It felt hodgepodge. It felt really
at first
rushed.
it did, yeah.
And this is how
And then they
WWE keeps us going.
right.
They were
Right.
able to take that and make a real team out of it.
We, at the time, we were sitting around the table eating pizza and wings, and we were saying, God, this sucks. This is terrible. Here we are 10 years later, sitting around the table eating pizza and wings saying, do you remember the glory days?
right.
Do you remember when the bar existed? When the bar, wasn't that great? And at the time we were sobbing, please, dear God, give us something other than the bar. Please, please.
If you said 10 years, you meant 10 months.
Well, back then we still had fond and recent memories of the Attitude Era because it was only 10 years prior to that. But nowadays, we're 20 years outside of
I
the
want to know what
Attitude
the hell happened to Sheamus.
Era.
He's coming back.
So he's coming back. He'll be back in 2020. He took some time off, like a solid year and a half. He has, like Rusev, he is a lean, mean fighting machine. I mean, he got pretty thick. He got pretty big. He got a little soft towards the end there. He is jacked. And he's running a YouTube channel now.
He has a fitness YouTube, right?
Okay.
Where he runs, where he works out with other wrestlers, and he is jacked. He
All
looks
right,
great.
okay. Let me rephrase that. How the hell did Sheamus go from headlining with Triple H,
Yeah, King Sheamus. King of the Ring.
to mid card tag team with Cesaro?
I don't know, maybe he spit on Vince McMahon's shoes.
Yeah.
I mean, what a burial!
You see it time and time again.
To be fair, they were, 5-time champs?
Yeah. He got his
So,
exposure.
can you really call it a burial?
He win the World Championship?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
I can if the tag team division's weak.
That's the thing.
It's
Not anymore.
As low as the tag division is, they were
But you're right.
pushed pretty hard in it.
At the time.
I mean, like we're not talking about a tag team division with the Brainbusters, the Heart Foundation, the Legion of Doom. Epic. The Rockers, epic
even
tag.
AEW's
Tag teams.
Right, the AEW tag division is similar to now. Yeah, nowadays they're running out of. They're pairing people together.
Yeah.
What's Bobby Roode doing in a tag team? Like,
right.
let alone the
Three tag
champions.
teams. Yeah.
Let alone the champs.
Yeah,
So
I will say I was shocked that AJ Styles got as big as push as he did before they cooled him off.
I don't even know if they cooled him off.
He was champion for over a year.
He was, but I mean, he's still out there every week.
Yeah.
They just didn't give him the title.
Right.
It just didn't feel like paying him that much anymore. I don't know. Like, he wasn't. I made this comment the week before he lost the title to Rey Mysterio. He is not elevating the title.
You don't think so?
I don't think he elevated the title the entire
The
time.
U.S. title.
The United States title. I don't think he elevated the title the whole time that he had it. He had it for the whole year, basically, of 2019, and I don't think he elevated the title. There's several people that aren't elevating. Bayley
Right.
is not elevating the title that she has right now. You have to, especially the lower end titles, the World Championships or the World Championships.
To be fair, that's not really Bayley's fault. They're not giving her the time to try and do anything with it.
They effed up her heel turn.
Well,
so bad.
that's what I was going to ask you, Jeremy. Is, and I'll admit I haven't really followed current content in wrestling in a while, but what kind of opponents do they give AJ Styles to elevate the title with? Because he's only as good as the opponent, as the match he's in.
Well, so let's be fair to AJ Styles. AJ Styles is not 30. Okay, AJ Styles is, off the top of my head, 45, something like that.
42, something like that.
Yeah, okay, he's in his 40s. At
Okay.
some point. He made a name for himself in Impact Wrestling as the premier X Division guy, and he's not really capable. Just like Rey Mysterio, just like all those older guys. They're not really capable of doing the same stuff now. Chris Jericho. They're not capable of doing the same stuff now that they were capable of doing 10, 15, 20 years ago. When they really made the name for themselves.
Okay.
And you know this, the United States Championship, the Intercontinental Championship, the Television Championship, whatever you choose to call it, it's a developmental championship. It's supposed to get people invested in you. Invested in who you are, invested in your gimmick, in your character, right? You're going to go through
up to be a world title contender.
Exactly. Okay, that's the way that it used to be, right?
Right.
Macho Man Randy Savage didn't come in and win the Universal Championship. The first 2 weeks, his gimmick came out. He won the tag teams, and then he won the Intercontinental, and then he worked his way up. When you've got a seasoned vet like AJ Styles, who has already won just about every other championship you could possibly win, has been world title contender, world title champion in just about every other brand and every other promotion. You can't have come to the WWE and have him win and hold the United States Championship and have it. He's not going to be able to elevate it. They're going to be like, why does he have this? It doesn't make any sense.
So yeah, all right.
So I'm talking about elevating the people that hold the championship.
Okay.
Not the championship belt itself. I mean, it stands for itself. It doesn't need to stand for anything else. But it needs to. Shinsuke Nakamura holding the Intercontinental makes way more sense to me. He's a guy that came up through NXT. He was a solid performer at NXT. He hasn't been a world champion in WWE. He's considered a mid-high card guy. He's not a main eventer. He's got a very unique style. He's a niche character, and a character like that is going to need some development. So giving a guy like that the Intercontinental Championship and having him hold it for a while makes sense to me, and it elevates the championship. So that in a year, when he wins the WWE Championship, it's gonna mean something. Oh. Giving Robert Roode the champion, the Intercontinental Championship, would make sense to me. Giving, and I know I'm gonna have him on my team for this one, giving Buddy Murphy the United States Championship, even though he's not a UFC, but whatever, who gives a crap about that? Giving him the Intercontinental Championship would make perfect sense right now. Because it's about elevating the title and what it means for your future. But the fact that they're not giving Buddy that title shot says something, right? It tells you something about what they're going to do with it. So that's what I mean when I say that they're not elevating the championship. Is it has to be part of a progression, and it has to be a commitment to the wrestlers for the overarching storyline. It seems to me that 15, 20, 30, 40 years ago, when they were building a character, they would be building a character thinking, okay, in 5 years, you're going to be the world champion. We're investing in you long term. Mm-hmm. In 5 years, we're going to have you be the world champion. But today, they don't want the liability. Maybe they're only signing you to a 1 year or a 2 year or a 3 year contract. Getting a 5 year deal, that's a pretty good setup. You don't see an awful lot of that anymore. And so the idea that they're going to carry a story arc that far,
maybe it's none. Maybe it's just they're afraid that the audience is going to get bored if they carry it on too long.
I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that's true?
That might be part of it. I think it's more they're less about building individual people. Yes. Because they're more about building the brand. WWE.
Yeah. Yep, the brand.
That's the only thing they're.
The problem is what's the brand? What are they selling you?
Sports entertainment.
It's air. It's air in a box. Mm-hmm. It's time. That's why you see all these crazy. They're trying to find new ways. I don't know how much you know about this, but all they care about financially is selling subscriptions. And getting clicks on social media.
Yeah, getting the yep.
And they're losing. Their business model is shifting. That's why you're not seeing them pitch matches. Because
before a pay-per-view.
No one's going to buy a subscription, except for maybe WrestleMania. No one's going to buy a subscription so that they can watch Survivor Series. Or tables, ladders, and chairs.
Right.
You might get the subscription because frickin' WrestleMania costs $100. to watch. And it's like, well, I may as well get a year's worth of wrestling for that. Mm-hmm. There's a good buddy of mine that I work with at my job, big wrestling fan. I've gone to a couple of dark shows with him. He's been a fan his whole life. He's the kind of guy that I'd like to have on the show, and he does a really good job of... He's got a lot of the same historical insights that we do, and he's part of our generation. He canceled his membership a month ago. And I asked him why he canceled his membership. Because if the WWE can't keep a guy like that, they can't keep anybody. And he said, because I said, do you watch every week? He said, if it's on TV. But I'm not going to go out of my way. If I'm flipping through the channels and it's on, yeah, I'll stop. Mm-hmm. But if there's something else on, I'll watch anything else. He's like, I'll watch The Bourne Identity before I watch wrestling now. And I've got it on DVD. Just nothing surprises him anymore. Right. There's nothing new. Why should I tune in? I'll just watch on Twitter. I'll see the highlight.
Yep.
Oh, I'll see the big heel turn on Twitter 5 minutes after it happens.
On YouTube.
See the clips. I'll pirate it the next day. There's no reason for me to watch anymore.
Well, I mean, that to me, that all leads back into what we were discussing before we started the show. Storytelling. You don't need new if you can tell a good story. They're not telling good stories. They're telling high spots, after high spot after high spot after high spot. Again, as we discussed before,
WWE's telling spots. They're not very high.
Yes. When was the last time you saw someone actually take a punch and make you think that they just got decked?
Yep.
KO'd.
Not a punch. No, they won't do that for punches.
You know what I'm saying? No, they take a punch. They might take a back bump, but they pop right back up and into the next.
Jim Ross.
I mean, back in the day, the only person who ever kicked out of a finish was fucking Hulk Hogan.
Yep. They don't call them finishers anymore. They call them signature moves.
And that's what made it, when he did do it, so huge. No one kicked out of the Randy Savage elbow drop.
Jim Ross has a really good comment on this. He said, first of all, as a fan, you don't know when the match is over. There's nothing decisive about it. Mm-hmm. As the commentator, how do I know which one of these things to sell?
Yeah.
How do I, which one of the spinning, flying, tilt-a-whirl neck breakers is going to be the one that puts you away? It makes it impossible for anybody to do their job. The commentary becomes crap. The people watching the show can't follow along. The wrestlers are moving from spot to spot to spot instead of moving from story to instead of chapter 1 to chapter 2 to chapter 3 to chapter 4, right? It just becomes move to move to move. It becomes this over choreographed thing. The art has been completely drained out of the scenario.
Yeah, and it's almost like they're afraid to pull the trigger and let someone, let a match be a match. Like
they've drained the creativity. People can't do it anymore. I don't know that people can do that anymore. Can performers do that now? I don't know. Has it become a vestigial skill?
I think they can, but I just don't think they're allowed. I'll give you another example. Sting Triple H. All right. WrestleMania. That match had everything. It had good storytelling. It had the run-ins with DX and NWO, which didn't affect the outcome of the match, which was a fantastic thing. Mm-hmm. The one thing it needed was a clean finish to be a great, one of the all-time great matches. That's all it needed. Right? But for whatever reason, they call a sledgehammer to the face to Sting. Now, as a longtime Sting fan, because growing up, I was a WCW guy and Sting was my guy. To have him go out like that in his first WrestleMania just pissed me off. Yep. I would have much rather seen a pedigree and a 1-2-3 to Sting than a sledge to the face. Mm-hmm. I mean, why? Why?
This is the problem with having legend versus legend. You can't have the legend get toppled. So you have to find a way.
I disagree with that, because you could. You have Sting take the fall from the pedigree. He stands up and he shakes his hand.
No.
It's,
losing, but then you lose the only thing that has going for it, which is intensity. Right? If at the end of every conflict, I stand up and shake your hand, it loses, the next conflict is going to lose its intensity. Vince Russo talked about this on the Talk Is Jericho podcast. Okay?
Right.
And he talks about how, there's not enough story now. That people don't get invested over long periods of time into the characters. So when they win, when they lose, it's like early season baseball, right?
Okay.
You and I are both baseball fans, right?
Right.
Who cares about the first 60 games? Nobody cares about the first 60 games.
No, I understand that. But
because it's early in the season, you've got so long to make up for any deficit that you've got.
Okay.
That only the worst teams in the league put themselves out of playoff contention in the
Okay.
first 60 games of the year, right?
All right.
And you know before the year even begins if it's going to be one of those years. So, you have to create a scenario in which you create emotional investment from the people watching the program.
Okay.
And you can't do that if at the end of every match, the Cody and Dustin match, where they did
All right.
that, they're brothers.
All right. I'm not saying every match. I was talking that match specifically.
I just mean legend versus legend. You can't do that.
Why not?
It's a legend versus legend.
Why not?
You can't.
You don't think that you could have done that with Sting and Triple H?
I think that
Because now, if Sting was to, if that was, it was supposed to be a one and done for Sting. All right, that was it.
Yep.
It wasn't until after the fact that they started talking about the whole Seth Rollins thing.
Yeah.
All right, he was a one and done for WrestleMania. Mm-hmm. That should have ended with a handshake. If it's a one and done, Sting's going to the Hall of Fame. He's calling it a career. Why do a schmaz finish? You had so many great weeks of awesome build-up between the two. You built the intensity. So you have the match. Why not have it clean? And a handshake. It's two legends. Like you said, it's two legends, but one is not coming back.
I don't know. See, I'm not convinced of that. The only time I've seen two legends, and one of you two can correct me on this, but the only time I've seen two legends where the match ends cleanly and there's a handshake at the end is The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels.
No, Rock Hogan.
Undertaker, Triple H. They hugged after.
I think that Undertaker Triple H came after he lost to Brock Lesnar.
No.
That was before?
Mm-hmm.
If you watched, did you watch the behind the scenes with Sting?
Yeah.
What's the show called?
24 or something?
Something like that, where they did the behind the scenes on him.
Right.
He says in the show, I don't really know if it's over, like even before. So they signed him to a contract to only do one match. But I think that not knowing anything about it, but I would suspect that Sting wanted to keep the back door open. Now, that doesn't mean there shouldn't have been a clean finish.
Yeah.
Because he could easily come back the next year and be like,
right,
I was fighting injured, or I was out of shape, I was just getting back into it.
Here's the thing.
Training, or Rocky 3 it, or whatever.
You don't even do that. He's Sting. Like they did with Seth Rollins. You put him to elevate a new talent. Put him in to elevate a new talent or a younger talent.
Yeah.
He's Sting. I don't know. Like my point being is, for that match, they ruined the story, a beautiful story. The build up to it was absolutely fantastic. I thought it was kind of cheap that they went WCW versus NWO. I think that was a little too dated. Mm-hmm. But the actual interaction between Triple H and Sting, building up to that, was absolutely fantastic. You waited every week to see what was going to happen next between Sting and Triple H. They kept Sting off TV for a couple weeks. Yep. Mm-hmm. They kept Triple H. Well, I mean, Triple H, he was doing the authority thing, but he wasn't referencing Sting. In most segments. Mm-hmm. It was only when Sting showed up that it became relevant. This is what I'm talking about, and this is the sort of thing that they need to do with Bray Wyatt. Keep him off TV. People wanted Sting, so he'd show up, and then you get the big payoff at WrestleMania. Mm-hmm. If Bray Wyatt's showing up every week, and and he's the champ, and they've killed the character before he even had a chance to really become something.
I don't think they can afford to do that.
This is what we were talking about earlier. You don't think the champ should stay off of TV.
So I think, well, first of all, I disagree with making Bray Wyatt the Universal Champion.
Yeah.
That was
our
a mistake, right?
Yeah.
I think they put themselves in a no-win situation where he either had to lose or win the championship, and both led to really bad outcomes. They picked the lesser of two evils. I think having him lose would be worse than having him win the championship.
Well, they tried to have him lose and got backlash.
and it just went really poorly, like overall and totally. So,
How do you get disqualified in a Hell in a Cell? I'm still trying to figure
the tweets off of that were hysterical. By the way,
what?
Some of the best tweets in the world came out of that.
Yeah. On Scarifyer, we can swear. I know I'm trying not to swear on this one, but I had a lot of colorful words for that when I saw it. A lot of colorful words.
I think that the champ has to... So he shouldn't be the champ, which would give him the freedom to do this. You've made him the champ. So, yeah, you can use the Bray Wyatt angle to get him on television every week, which is pretty much what they've done. I mean, he's holding the belt's
right
in the background, so there's always... But Bray Wyatt, here's the thing that we talked about Bray Wyatt sort of being the shadow of the Fiend or vice versa. If the Fiend's the champion, why does Bray Wyatt have the belt? It doesn't really make any sense. And what's this thing that they're doing with the Miz? And
that's over.
It's over, but
all right.
It was a way to put off the true rivalry with Daniel Bryan.
There's no long-term investment in the character.
Yeah, we've already established that.
So who cares if the Miz wins or loses? And frankly, who cares if... I mean, do we really care if Bray Wyatt wins or loses? If Bray Wyatt loses... I'm sorry, not Bray Wyatt, because Bray Wyatt got his ass beat down, right? If the Fiend...
He still won that match.
If the Fiend loses, do we really care as long as he loses in a way?
Yeah, if it's a good story in a good way, if it's told properly, yeah, it'll suck, but if he...
But I mean, if he dies like the villain in a horror movie...
Okay.
Does that make sense? And how do you make that happen in wrestling? That's the only way you could kill the Fiend and have him lose the title, right?
Well, here's the thing. I don't think it works in wrestling, honestly, because they put it on the belt on him too fast.
Yeah.
Way too fast. We all agree with that,
Yeah,
all right?
Yeah.
Regardless of the way it comes off, all right, when they take that belt off, what happens to the Fiend? All right, so maybe he gets screwed over in his first defeat, all right? Maybe that buys you a couple more relevant matches. But by the end of the day, I mean, he can't be champ forever. When they decide to give him a break, from the big spots, make him take a break, go learn a new move. What happens to the Fiend? Mm-hmm. He comes back to nothing. He's going to have nothing left.
No, he has to get buried, and he has to rise from the ashes like a phoenix. They have to do like a casket match, or a buried alive match. Or it has to be some gimmicky thing, and it has to be like...
Versus The Undertaker.
No, I wouldn't say versus The Undertaker. No, because I don't think that'd be a very good match.
No.
He's a little too crumpled. He's a little too...
It likely will happen because they did face each other at WrestleMania. That was the match after he lost to Brock Lesnar against Bray Wyatt.
I think we need to see a Demon versus Fiend.
And Balor's not going to leave NXT now. He likes where he is.
Well, again, okay, that's what I was just going to say.
He'll leave if Vince tells him to leave.
They Triple H tells him to leave now. Vince is too busy with the XFL. But they need to do something like that. What's the line from the Chronicles of Riddick? Normally, evil would be fought by good, but in this day and age, evil is fought by a different kind of evil. That's the what are you going to have? John Cena come back and bury him?
No, Roman Reigns is going to beat him.
Good. Oh, what a terrible. Unless they do a lights out match.
This isn't AEW.
I'm just saying, don't do it in Baltimore. But unless they do like a lights out match, like a lights out match or something like that. I mean, you gotta To quote
That's
Limp Bizkit,
but
you got to
again-
take it to the Matthews Bridge.
That's what they did at Hell in a Cell, and the fans hated that when he lost.
That's
He got disqualified.
it's the way that
Doesn't matter.
it's the way
Because he lost.
It's the way that he lost that bothered him. If he gets buried in a casket and then disappears for 6 months, that's something.
Here's something about the casket match, or not the casket, the Hell in a Cell match. He shouldn't even have been in there. Personally,
Yeah,
yeah, he should have not been in that match. He should have not been facing Seth Rollins. He just shouldn't have. It was too quick. You know?
Absolutely.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree wholly. They're rushing it though because they can't afford it. They're not willing to dig deep enough into their talent pool. They're not willing to develop. Questionable is the wrong word, but they have a whole bunch of guaranteed product that they've invested hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars into. They can't afford to not get a return on that investment. You can't pay millions of dollars a year to have a guy like Roman Reigns not wrestle. This is the difference between having a promotion that's backed by a billionaire and a promotion that's publicly traded. Your investors are going to go, we're investing all this money in this talent. You're not using it. Use it, Vince McMahon. Sell t-shirts. Sell tickets. People aren't going... Excuse me. People aren't going to the shows to see Buddy Murphy. Love him. Great talent. Good guy. Should be released and go to AEW. Right? But the shareholders aren't going to stand for it. They want to see a return on their investment. And it's just the difference in business model. Tony Khan has way more freedom right now because he's gambling with his own money. Vince McMahon, he's gambling with the Oklahoma Firefighters Pension Fund and Goldman Sachs and a whole bunch of other people's money. And they're not going to stand for risky investments. When I sat on the Q3 conference call, there was a question and answer period at the end. Mm-hmm. And one of the guys got on from one of the banks, one of the hedge funds that invests in stock for WWE. Mm-hmm. And he said, hey, you talked about pulling some investments into 2019 that you planned on doing in 2020. Do you want to talk about that? And Barrios went, nope, I do not want to talk about that. Because there were a whole bunch of things, the Cain Velasquez match, that they weren't supposed to do in 2019. Cain Velasquez was injured. He was overweight. He wasn't ready to be there. He wasn't ready to come back. But they pulled his contract in because they were so desperate to make sales because they needed to sell tickets. So they haven't done the investment in the secondary and tertiary level players that they need. Their bench is they've got a lot of players, but they haven't invested the time. We'd be just as mad, as much as you love him, if Buddy Murphy won the Universal Championship tomorrow, you'd be pissed.
Depends on how it happens.
You'd be pissed. You'd be pissed. He jumped everybody else in line. This doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, you're right. If it made sense, it'd be fine. But
I want to switch gears a little bit now. So let me ask you something. As a fan of Scarifyer, this is my chance to ask you a question. It's totally unrelated to film, actually. Mm-hmm. But it is something that has gained some popularity recently in the news, especially given that we're just coming out of the Halloween season.
Okay.
I want to ask you your thoughts on McCamey Manor.
Ooh. I've actually researched him a lot.
Yeah, so have I. I'm very interested to hear your take on McCamey Manor. Well, why don't you tell the fans what McCamey Manor is?
Well, McCamey Manor,
because he's totally lost right now.
You're lost right now?
Yeah.
All right. Well, McCamey Manor they call it an extreme haunted house. And basically, what this guy does is he makes you sign a 21 some odd
it's like
page,
40 page or something.
Contract saying that you won't sue him, and that you're allowing him to do whatever they want to you, and for the price of dog food, you can go for 8 hours or however long they want to keep you to this dude's house, and they take you into his haunted house, and he tortures you. He mock drowns you. They beat the shit out of you. They wrap your face in God knows what. Like if you throw up, they pick it up and throw it back in your mouth. Having worked in the haunted house business,
this is why I'm asking you this question.
I hate it. I hate it.
Okay.
That is not a haunt. That is
abuse.
That's abuse. I mean, I don't want to knock anybody. I mean, because people do get their thrills, and they're thrill seekers, and to them the ultimate fear of coming this close to death, or the perception of death, or the notion that it could happen. They get their jollies off on that. To me, a haunted house, or it's a show. Mm-hmm. It's vaudeville.
It's entertainment.
It's entertainment. It's supposed to be fun. Yeah, you're supposed to go in and you're supposed to get scared, but you're supposed to laugh right after it. Mm-hmm. You're not supposed to be beaten, have the tar kicked out of you.
For life.
Yeah, and it's just not, it's bad for the haunt business. Because what's going to happen is more houses like that, and there's other houses like the Blackout House in California, where they simulate rape in it. Mm-hmm. Like naked guys get in women's face, put their man areas right in their face. They simulate a rape in this thing. Mm-hmm. And what you're going to see happening is more of those pop up, and especially in our culture now that's super, super sensitive. Mm-hmm. With political correctness and just concepts of decency, or you're going to see the great ones like the Universal Halloween Horror Nights, or the Fright Fests at your Six Flags, or the mom and pop haunted hayride. People that put on great shows and just want people to come and have fun and have a good time. You're going to start seeing those get shut down or get so regulated that it's not worth doing. Mm-hmm. And that's really, really sad. It's really sad.
You really think that's a genuine risk? I mean, just the fact that he makes them sign a 40-page waiver before they participate in this thing. I mean, doesn't that tell you that there's already a pretty significant amount of regulation that's already in place that doesn't?
Oh, sure. I mean, the guy's been kicked out of 3 states.
Yeah, he's in like Kentucky now or something, or Alabama.
But it's the public perception. Mm-hmm. What you're going to have, and what you do have now, is you have people who won't even go near the house protesting it.
Sure.
Calling for, legislation and regulation, and it's why he's got kicked out of 3 states.
Yeah, California, right? It started in San Diego, and he got kicked out.
Yeah, so, I mean, they don't have to participate in it to get it, mm-hmm. changed, and to have their voices, and mm-hmm. You get the right politician behind it, and it's done. Mm-hmm. Seriously. Yeah, it's... Mm-hmm.
So you think it's just too fragile? I mean, there's obviously there's a waiting list, right? That's thousands of people long.
Yeah.
So there's clearly a market for it.
But
people don't really know probably what they're getting into. It sounds
no,
like
they really don't. I believe all the people that have gone through it, no one's ever finished it.
No, nobody's ever finished. Yeah, that's true. But I have heard of people going through it multiple times.
Yeah. I don't know. To me, that's not a haunted house. It's
gore now.
It's torture porn. It's a dude with a camera in your face as you're getting tortured, getting his jollies off.
We talked about sort of in that same vein. We talked a little bit about sort of the threat of violence being implicit in both professional wrestling and the horror genre, and sort of that threat sort of driving the story forward on sort of both genres. However, usually it's the threat of violence, right? Usually and I'm generalizing here, but at the beginning of the story, there's some act of gratuitous violence, whether it's spoiler alert, whether it's the boy being killed in a quiet place, right, or whether it's Mike Myers murdering his sister at the beginning of Halloween. Mm-hmm. There's something that tells the audience the stakes are really high. This is a true danger. Something really bad can happen. And then throughout the entirety of the rest of the story, where that threat of that danger, the threat of that violence hangs over our heroes, for lack of a better term, for the entirety of the rest of the film. And some of them make it out, some of them don't, but at the end of the day, it's the threat of that violence. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about the work of Rob Zombie, the work of Eli Roth, some of the Italian guys from the 1970s. But some of those guys, they sort of thrive on the depiction of violence, not necessarily the threat of violence. The threat is there, but the depiction of violence. The Saw movies as well sort of fall into that same thing. So what role does that play? I mean, do you see that, because that sort of plays on, from the professional wrestling side, the same role of the hardcore extreme matches where the real violence is people are really getting cut, they're really bleeding, they're really damaging themselves, right? So, I mean, there seems to be a certain amount of respect in the professional wrestling world for that subgenre of the entertainment industry, but it seems to me like you are more of maybe a horror purist. That you don't.
Oh, I mean, sorry. I'm certainly a more purist. I mean, when you're comparing it to wrestling and the hardcore matches, the extreme. I mean, like the Bruiser Brody matches. You know, the old Cactus Jack matches. It has such a small audience now that really makes it sort of exciting, which is why we've seen such a backlash with the Omega Moxley match, because it's just not. Yeah, to some small group of wrestling fans that's going to get them going.
They like the depiction of violence. But they don't want the actual violence.
Well, and that's just it. And I think that differentiates wrestling from horror movies is, by the end of the day, we all know it's foam latex and cornstarch and but when people are being dropped on razor wire, and you can see they get up and you see their back. Yeah. I mean that's. It's
the consequence is now paired with the action, and it's not fun anymore.
No, it really. And you go into that Moxley Omega match. I mean, that wasn't a fun watch. At least I didn't think it was. I mean, I watched it from start to finish. I thought some things were clever in it. I liked the finish of tearing apart the ring mat.
The ring, yeah.
I thought that was clever, but all the razor wire, the broom was a bat that they had. I mean, really?
Come on.
I mean, like, and I mean, on top of that, you can also get into the fact the bed of razor wire. Clearly, that was fake. Yeah. I mean, clearly that was gimmicked because they got out and there wasn't a scratch on them. I mean, they hammed it up okay, but.
The guys who were helping them out were selling it, though. Shaking their hands.
Right.
I guess, so not necessarily commenting from the wrestling side of things, because we have actually done an entire video on that.
Yes, and I saw it. Yep.
Go check it out.
Much more interesting to me is, because it seems to me that the horror genre, and maybe it's American culture or whatnot, even in instances where I think we all have agreement of, let's say, really solid horror films, like let's say, I think we all agree that It Chapter 1 was a very good film. Very scary. It sort of touched on all the points. It was funny in some points. It was scary in some points. There was a significant amount of violence that was actually shown in that film. Mm-hmm. I think there was more violence, and I actually haven't seen the second, but I'm told that there's actually more violence in the first film than there was in the second film.
Yes.
So
by far. Yeah.
So, I guess I would say, do you see horror movies shifting more in that direction of the actual depiction of violence, as opposed to, we do see a niche sort of threat of violence. We do see that sort of still out there, but much more prevalent, it seems to me, is the actual real guy getting his arm chopped off, guy getting eaten by cannibals, I
don't think you're seeing that as much as
Saw 9. I think is about to come out.
Yeah, I think it's starting to revert backwards a little bit. In the first part of the 2000s, I mean, Saw, Hostel, the Green Inferno, all those came out, and that was kind of like the flavor of the week. The torture porn, all the Rob Zombie movies. I think it's starting to revert backwards a little bit. Here another shameless plug. As you're listening to this, go to Scarifyer.com on Twitter and YouTube, and we have right now our latest episode, which is Dr. Sleep. A lot of implied horror in there. Now they show some pretty graphic scenes, especially one in particular that made me squirm. But a lot of it was implied horror. Halloween 2018. I mean, yeah, Michael Myers, puts his boot through Zartan's head, but a lot of it was implied horror.
Well, you have to establish the violence.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to have at least a moment of
this
is
but
real.
I guess what I'm saying is what I'm getting at is I think it's the Saw movies, the Hostel movies. They're starting to take a more of a backseat to storytelling now, and you're seeing more my type of horror movie, a more storytelling oriented horror movie that has the right mix of the blood and guts and violence. It'll be really interesting to see what Chris Rock's Saw does this coming year. It'll be really, really interesting to see how this plays. That type of movie.
I hope he cameos in it.
I hope so too.
Maybe he gets tortured at the beginning or something.
But I mean, everything I've read about this, they are all about it. Whatever he's doing, whatever he's written, whatever he's done, the studio is all about it.
Well, let me ask you about that, because with that level of violence that we're seeing, and the trend that you say seems to have reached its denouement and is now sort of coming down off of, there seems to always be, at least in the last 10 years or so, they always try to mask that violence behind some sort of deeper meaning. They're always trying to make some kind of a social statement, whether it's Green Inferno. Eli Roth talked about how it was all about slacktivism, and he loved seeing these kids get eaten alive by cannibals, or whether it be, the idea of sort of poetic but violent justice that's associated with Saw, Did You Live a Fulfilling Life, or Hostel, this organization of people that are simply manipulative and are trying to feed their bloodthirsty lust. There always seems to be some bigger message that seems to be associated with each one of these films, and it seems to me like maybe they're doing that in a more with some of maybe Peele's recent films where the violence maybe isn't quite so graphic or quite so there, and yet they're still trying to touch on a larger message, maybe trying to appeal to a larger audience or something like that, because horror isn't necessarily the niche that it was before, but I don't think anyone saw any deeper meaning inside Scream or I Know What You Did Last Summer or...
Well, certainly not... I know
Poltergeist, you know what I mean?
Certainly not I Know What You Did Last Summer. Scream was a satire of it was a satire of a horror movie that became a horror movie.
No, but I mean, okay, Freddy Krueger, or, you know what I mean? There was no one seems to be making some larger social statement.
They all have their social statements. I mean, Wes Craven was a big politician. He put a lot of stuff in his movies. I mean, even in Nightmare on Elm Street, he kind of attacks the broken family dynamic, and
so it sounds to me like you're saying that you have to touch on those.
You don't. I don't think you have to, but what I'm getting at, it's always been there in horror. Mm-hmm. It's like even Frankenstein. Not even the movie, the book.
Right.
It's the consequence.
What does it mean to be a human?
It's the consequence of man trying to emulate God.
Yeah.
Bride of Frankenstein.
But that's not a social, right? That's not
back
so much
in
a social.
Maybe not today, but in the 30s, in the 1800s when the book was written, certainly it was. Mm-hmm. As we were going in, approaching this new age of technology and science, absolutely it was. Night of the Living Dead. Clearly a huge social statement about
Soylent Green is people.
Racial injustice and all. So it's always been in horror. I think what.
That's your ride.
Yeah. See ya. I'm out. They're on to me. What I'm trying to get at it. With horror, there's you either do it right or you don't do it right at all. You know what I'm saying?
No little misses.
So we'll take Night of the Living Dead for example. You can watch that movie and pick up on all the social cues and get thinking and really thought provoking, or you can watch that movie and watch zombies eat people and have just as much of a good time. Mm-hmm. Now you take something like Universal and Blumhouse's upcoming Invisible Man. Mm-hmm. This is not H.G. Wells' Invisible Man. This is not even the movie that they're trying to remake from 1933. This is in name only just to get butts in the seats to show a Me Too movie. Mm-hmm. If you don't know what the story arc is, it basically is abused woman who finally leaves her boyfriend, finds out that boyfriend has died, but boyfriend's not really dead. He starts attacking her either as a ghost or as an invisible man.
I'm not sure which.
Is his name Weinstein by any chance?
No.
A little too close to home, maybe.
So
a little too on the nose.
to kind of bring it all back together, there's always political statements and all, just about every. I think Halloween's probably the only one that you really can't find one in because it's just it's such a low budget. Just.
But even then, and that's the thing because like wrestling and horror movie genres, because they touch on such a diverse group, you could even look at the Halloween series and you could say, wow, yeah, they're really trying to draw attention to the poor system of treatment for mental health.
Yeah.
That poor boy. That poor boy was sick, and
the Rob Zombie Halloweens, it was
it was much more emphasized
on the lower class of living, American living.
Because it's such a because it spans such a or the whole I know what you did last summer. It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your child is? Or that kind of. There's always been sort of or like the be careful what you wish for type thing. Even more suspense films. I think this one's a little bit dated. I don't know when it came out, but The Box, which was sort of had that monkey's paw.
Yeah.
Be careful what you wish for type situation to it. So, because they're so. I guess if you're looking for it, you could find a social or politically charged topic. The question is that the intent of the writer, director, and performers, or is that just a side effect that if you're a paranoid schizophrenic, you can find it anywhere you want. You know what I mean? If you're looking for
I think it certainly. I think it depends on the individual movie, the individual performance, and the individual director.
Or do actors try to to bring it back to wrestling, like with kayfabe, right? Are they trying to draw attention to the film by saying, "Yeah, I really channeled Martin Luther King Jr. when I played my character," or I really, they try to. They certainly could.
But let's go take horror back, way, way, way back. They were morality tales. They scared children to do right things. Mm-hmm. Well, Little Red Riding Hood's a werewolf story. Mm-hmm.
Krampus.
Mm-hmm. So, it in some way it's always been there. But I think it is based on the director, the actor, and the story of how much you're really how you're gonna double down on it. Mm-hmm. Clearly this new Invisible Man is and nothing wrong with it. I'm not getting political here with they're clearly making a Me Too women's lib feminist.
Right, wrong, or indifferent.
Yeah,
that's what they're doing. Yeah.
And that is their sole intention.
Mm-hmm. It hasn't worked out well for anyone else that's tried something like that.
No, well,
the female Ghostbusters did not do well.
No.
Ocean's 8 did not do well.
No, but Halloween 2018 did. You can take that. You can interpret that as a Me Too movie. The three strong women at the end, they fight off the boogeyman.
Was that the intention?
I'm sure there was a big chunk of it.
Do you think there was an active choice? We're not going to have a man.
Sure. Yeah. I really do. I'm almost certain that that is what it is. But with that movie, they were like Night of the Living Dead. They're able to mask it. I mean, you can watch that movie and you're watching a kick-ass Michael Myers is scary again, and great movie. Mm-hmm. And again, it also goes to the viewer too. What are you going to watch it for? I watch horror movies because I don't want to think of real life. I go to concerts because I don't want to think of. I want to break for 2 hours. Mm-hmm. So I mean that's where I go when I go watching a horror movie. Mm-hmm. That's where I'm looking for. Where's the escapism? Because if I want to watch, something with some sort of political thing, I can turn on the news. If I want to listen to the music that has a message, I can put Bob Dylan, in the record player. Mm-hmm. I watch Halloween, Frankenstein. I put Kiss, Aerosmith. Stuff to me that just makes me feel good for 2 hours. Yeah.
It's like my old man's are there boobs and explosions?
Yeah.
That's really all I'm interested in.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that I'm totally against, thought-provoking movies, but typically...
There's a place.
Yeah. I mean, I work a very stressful job. You guys have jobs of your own. Mm-hmm. You want the escape sometimes. Most of the time.
Or maybe you just want to see someone that's got it worse than you.
Yeah, right.
Well, at least they're not being stabbed in the back by Jason Voorhees.
I'm not getting eaten by this cannibal. Life's good.
Boy, sometimes I say that when I'm watching wrestling too. At least I'm not being body slammed onto a whole bunch of barbed wire. Boy, that looks like it hurts.
He just got nutted on the top turnbuckle. That did not happen to me today. I'm winning.
Child still on the cards. Well, hey, listen. So, let me ask you this, because we're maybe going to try and wrap this up a little bit here. Thanks for stopping by. What is the future have in store for Scarifyer? What are you guys doing? Where do you want to go? What's up next? I mean,
like I said earlier, as you're watching this, our newest episode on Dr. Sleep will be out, our full review. If you haven't seen Dr. Sleep, it was a fantastic movie, especially if you're a King fan and a fan of the Kubrick movie.
Do you have to see the Kubrick movie in order to...
You don't, but it would help.
Okay.
I'm saying you don't need to go see the Kubrick movie, but...
Mm-hmm. Is it better than the Nicholson-Kubrick movie?
The Kubrick movie is lightning in a bottle. You're never going to get better. But
I think even Kubrick knew that at the time.
But let me tell you this. When you get to that part of the movie where he's back at the Overlook Hotel... Mm-hmm. The director's name's slipping my mind, which is absolutely terrible. But he makes you feel you're in a Kubrick movie. Mm-hmm. He gets the camera angles. He gets the feeling. Mm-hmm. It's like a good wrestling match. The payoff at the end of Dr. Sleep is the Overlook Hotel. And the last 45, 30 minutes of this movie it blows your mind. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this is my horror movie of the year, even above It. Mm-hmm. I never was a big It fan.
It Part 2, I think, fell short. I think some people were disappointed with
it. The last 30 minutes, my jaw was on the floor. Mm-hmm. I'm trying not. The show is spoiler filled, so if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want spoilers, don't listen to the show. Go see the movie, listen to the show. But whatever you do, just go listen to the show. I can't put it over enough. Ewan McGregor is absolutely incredible.
Film of the year.
Horror movie of the year. McGregor deserves some awards for his portrayal as Danny Torrance.
Mm-hmm.
You really felt that that kid in the Kubrick movie grew up to be him.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what movies are you excited about for 2020? What movies or events are you excited
for
about?
2020? Ghostbusters.
Oh, definitely.
Afterlife.
Yep.
Right now, Ghostbusters Afterlife, Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends will be next year, but Halloween Kills. And Ghostbusters Afterlife is on the top of my list from what I'm looking for.
Isn't there a new, maybe it's not this year, but isn't there something related to Art the Clown coming up too? I thought that
that probably won't be out until for another year.
2021.
Yeah,
yeah, I thought that just
they just wrapped filming Terrifier 2.
Terrifier. That's right. Yeah.
So yeah, you probably won't see that for another year. But
you were big fans.
We are
Clown,
huge fans. It was our very first episode, and we follow that closely. So every information that comes out about that movie, we try to get it on the show. If you've never listened to the show, we kind of format it. It's open discussion like this, but we do a whole news section in the beginning. So you're pretty much caught up with all the big news
you don't know the latest
and horror,
greatest, yeah.
and we have a little back and forth on that and how we feel about it. Universal is not getting a lot of love lately from us, especially.
They're not earning it.
Yeah.
Well, especially for me and the Gov, who the Universal's monsters, where this whole thing started. That's why I started watching horror movies.
They were the only horror movies I watched when I was a kid.
Well, yeah. I had some older cousins, and my aunts and uncles didn't care what they watched, so they were, 8, 9, 10 years old, and are in the slashers and stuff like that. Well, a few years younger, 5, 6 years old, my parents were like, "No, you're not watching that." So they would take us to the movie store, and they said, "If you want to watch something scary, here's Frankenstein, here's Dracula. If you guys can handle that, good for you." So that's where this whole horror journey started for me, and to see what Universal's doing, with this forced,
it's a money grab.
Yeah, it's.
You really can't deny it. It's a money grab.
But yeah, no, the Gov and I, right now it's all audio. We plan on going live.
Streaming.
Live streaming. We are going to be hitting some conventions, as convention scene is in the spring, summer, and fall. And we got a couple things that we're talking about that we're not really to throw out there, but
2020 is going to be a big year, though.
We're hoping it is. We got a lot of good connections, and we'll see where it takes us. But the big thing is the big news is getting our website, which will be ready to go soon, fully active, going live, and conventions. And we'll post wherever you guys can come see us, come pick our brains about horror movies, tell us if we suck, tell us if you love us. It's all good for us. And
feedback's feedback.
Yep, and we keep watching movies. Horror. The horror genre is such a great genre. It really is. It's to me, it's escapism to the fullest. Where else are you gonna see hockey mask guy get his head cut off and come back 2 years later and actually kind of believe that what happened, how he came back was legit.
Yeah, really, except for maybe action movies, there really is no genre that makes you willfully suspend your disbelief.
Sure.
You walk into it saying, I don't want to see reality. I want to see something extraordinary or supernatural or whatever it is. Speaking of which, related to that, I couldn't help but notice some of these neat little peg dolls. What are these things?
This is another project of mine.
This is a fun one.
It's actually...
this is it.
This is headed by my wife, Sarah. So if you go to Etsy and find Lambert Craft Studios, you can find a whole bunch of handmade crafts made by my wife. So I like to say, if you have a super fan in your family, or if you're a super fan yourself, check us out. Maybe you can find something unique. Like I brought these today for you wrestling guys. Jerry, if you want to show.
I'll show you. Yeah, these are pretty cool.
We got some wrestling bookmarks.
Bookmarks. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And the minimalist, art.
Yeah, I like that. There's the Warrior.
And
$1 million.
We do keychains.
Taker. This is pretty cool.
Do keychains.
Andre.
All the peg dolls are hand painted. We do jewelry. We even do custom work. If you you don't want Frankenstein or Batman on a set of earrings, but if you want your dog or a loved one, my wife will make those to you. Shipping, we usually get them out within a day or two of your order. Quick and easy, and great gift ideas.
Cool.
We sold a lot of magnets at the beginning of the school year. Kids were buying Stranger Thing magnets, Harry Potter magnets to hang up in their lockers. But for New Year's, we do have a special for you guys. So for those of you who are watching this podcast, from now until February 1st, if you type in promo code WRESTLE, 10% off your entire purchase.
Whoa!
Wow. Nice.
Yep, at Lambert Craft Studios.
Okay, sick.
So promo code WRESTLE, 10% off your entire purchase.
Goes to show you, wrestle with the business. It pays to wrestle with the business. It's not all free. Well, cool, man. Hey, listen, I really appreciate you stopping by. It's always interesting to see where these little genres crisscross.
Yeah.
It's always nice to meet, sort of a full-time wrestling fans meeting a part-time fan, full-time horror guy meeting a part-time. I think there's a lot of crossover between the forms of entertainment, and I think that there's a lot that your industry can learn from ours and our industry can learn from yours. And I think that they definitely would be doing each other some serious favors by spending a little bit more time watching each other. So
learn how to tell a story. Tell a good story.
Definitely.
I think both wrestling and horror can learn a lot from good storytelling.
Yeah, I should get John Carpenter to write for.
He just wrote a Joker graphic novel.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. The longer I spend sort of examining the entertainment industries, the more I see that the people that really hone their craft and really understand what's going on, they have a diverse experience.
Sure. You
go to rock concerts and you hear about how Gene Simmons is a big country music fan, or they have a really diverse background, a list of experiences on which they can sort of mix everything up and create this entirely unique product that seems to appeal.
Black Sabbath was a jazz band before Tony Iommi chopped his fingers off.
Yeah,
I mean, doesn't get any more diverse than that.
Yeah. Well, and then you build your chops, you build your skills, and you learn a lot more about the industry itself, other than just having this one myopic focus on what it is we need to do. So thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching.
Yes,
as always.
Can't wait to have you guys on Scarifyer.
We got a couple of opinions, so I think that might be good.
Definitely.
Thanks for sticking around. As always, follow us standard. Follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook. Be looking for new content multiple times every week. We'll be killing ourselves to make sure we get content out to you guys. And if there's nothing else, always remember, follow the money, keep kayfabe, and we'll keep wrestling with the business.
I am the third man.
Brother.